Welcome back. Now, in just a few minutes, we're going to go to Jakari Jackson, the InfoWars crew that's down at the Texas-Mexico border. They're looking at this massive influx of illegal immigrants. We believe this is done by design. It's part of the warfare state and the welfare state. Both of those are dearly loved by one constituency or the other. The Democrats, the left, love the welfare state, and yet what has it given anybody? It hasn't worked in this country. It hasn't worked in other countries. Again, look at Hugo Chavez's Venezuela, where the bankers got 700% on their return on their investment. But the people today have to leave the country in order to get water, let alone medicine. They're dying in numbers where they can't even get coffins to bury the dead. That's what the welfare state is doing for people in Venezuela. It's what it did for people in China under Mao. It's always a planned implosion so they can rebuild their new society on the ashes of what was there. And of course, we see that over and over and over again in other countries with the warfare state. No one benefits from it except for the military-industrial complex, as we just pointed out. So both the left and the right love that, but those are the means of taking down, of collapsing the American economy. We're always accused of being racist whenever we talk about stopping the uncontrolled flow of immigrants in this country when we have a massive and expanding welfare state. Yet look at how the Mexican government itself treats immigration. Now, this is going back to their general laws of 1999. They say that they would only welcome foreigners who would be useful to Mexican society. And they point out that foreigners could be barred from the country if they, quote, upset the equilibrium of the national demographics. They also said that they could be banned if they don't behave and obey the laws of their own country. In other words, they're not going to allow criminals to come into Mexico. They have to be good citizens in their own country. And they also put in income restrictions. They have very definite restrictions on whether or not you'll be able to stay in the country, whether or not you can take care of yourself. They're not going to bring you in as a burden on their welfare state. And yet we're supposed to do just the opposite. For example, very specifically in 2012 in Yucatan, they said that you have to have income or deposits in a bank balance that are equivalent to $95,892 US in order to stay there. Or you have to have a monthly income that is equivalent to $1,918. That's up significantly from what it was before of just $1,200 per month. So they're not going to allow people to come in and just live off of the state there. They're not going to allow people to participate in the voting process to fundamentally change their legal structure. They don't even allow foreign citizens to participate not only in the political life, but even to own property. So we're going to talk to Jakari Jackson and crew. We find out that they get a little bit different treatment at the border than those who are coming across it illegally. Well, Jakari, tell us what's been going on down there. I understand at some point you got followed by the Border Patrol. They're looking out for you. They're not worried about the other people coming across, are they?
Yeah, that's exactly right, David. As you can see behind me, we're right in front of Mexico. There's just a small body of water separating us from Mexico. And there's Border Patrol. They're out here on their four-wheelers. They're out here in their trucks. They're out here in their speedboats. But, you know, we were a few miles away from here looking at another place where we were told that there were a lot of illegals crossing. We didn't see any illegals ourselves, but we did get followed by the Border Patrol there. They followed us probably about 2 miles down the road, and then we stopped and turned around and said, let's see if these guys are really following us. So we stopped, we pulled over, turned around, and they started following us again. So it was quite comical that they were, you know, looking at guys that had Texas plates. Meanwhile, you have all these illegals. If they want to find these guys, they can go to the Army bases. They can go to these Air Force bases if they're looking for illegals crossing the border.
That's right. And of course, people have seen crossings during the daytime, but I imagine you're probably going to see more people crossing at night than you will during the day, don't you think?
I would imagine so, too. You know, we're just working with the time we have. We're still out here in McAllen. We stopped at a local facility, and one of the ladies was telling us some of the hot spots to go. So we were out checking out those areas. We also have a few more spots we're going to go to in the coming days. So hopefully we'll be able to spy them, because we have seen them at the bus station, as I talked about in the Alex Jones radio show today. We saw them at the bus stations. They were being picked up by various church groups who, you know, fed them, clothed them,
right,
and got them back on a new bus to go to wherever their location was going. So hopefully we'll find some people out here crossing the border.
So the immigrants are the people who live there are telling you where the illegals are crossing the border, because that's a regular thing. It's just that now it's changed in terms of the volume and in terms of the demographics, in terms of younger people coming across. Tell us what you saw earlier today after the report where you saw the churches busing them into deeper inside the United States.
Yes, we talked to a church group, alluding to the report we filed last night that was on drudgereport.com. We talked to one of the church representatives who was busing the children. Then we went to another facility that they told us where they were housing the children, giving them hot showers, giving them food, and preparing them to go on their next leg of the trip, wherever that may be. And we went to the facility. It was called Sacred Heart. It was a church there in McAllen. And there were people outside playing basketball. There was also some city workers out there. And I asked to talk to, some of the facility advisors. All of them were busy in a meeting. And the guy said, well, you can't really talk to anybody right now. But, they weren't harassing us. They allowed us to shoot the footage, which was good. We didn't have any conflicts with that. So hopefully we'll get that same Texas hospitality as we continue along the border and just go to different locations and try to find out what's really going on and why this is not being reported in the mainstream news. Or if it is being reported, it's being whitewashed as some humanitarian aid. But you have to realize, David, because you have a lot of these children, as reported, I believe, on Breitbart last day or two or so, about a lot of these kids they come in with gang tattoos on them. So we're bringing in gang members. Of course, not all of them are, but we are bringing in known gang members while we have gang members inside the United States. All the time you hear about the shootings in Chicago, the shootings, the gang shootings, the drug shootings that happen all the time here in the United States. And now we're bringing more problems to our borders. I
guess, Jakari, the question I have is, were you able to talk to anybody at these church groups? Because rather than, if they're interested in the welfare of the child, I would think that perhaps they might transport them back to where they came from to reunite them with their family rather than transporting them further into the United States away from their family. Seems like they're not really aware of the bigger picture that's going on here.
And that's one of the questions I asked to the lady I spoke to her off camera. She didn't want to be filmed, but she spoke to me off camera, and she said, some of the families send money to the children, because that's one of the big questions I asked. I said, is the government involved in any way that you know of? She says, not that I know of. Most of the children, or not all the children that she knew of that came here with their mothers, they were receiving money from family members who are already in the States or just from whatever other source. So, that's the question I had. But she said the people that at least she worked with had family members already inside the United States.
That's interesting. Well, and again, you can always say that it's a humanitarian position, but as I mentioned earlier in the news, there's a limit as to how much can be maintained in one country. And it's kind of like the situation when you're on an airplane and the oxygen masks come down. They tell you for the adults to put that on themselves first, so they can help the children. And that's essentially what I see happening. And there's been Christian groups who have gone into other countries with missionary groups and helped them build their infrastructure, help them to build their standard of living. But to say that we can take care of uncontrolled immigration in this country, it seems to me like those people don't really understand what the bigger picture is. It's kind of misplaced compassion, I think.
I think it is, because the question is, let's say we do bring all these Central American people here. If this country gets this bad, and then what's the next place where people are going to want to go? Why can't we help these people, try to find out what the problems are in their country so they don't have to leave to another country? Just find out what the issue is in their location, whether it's violence, if it's drugs, if it's whatever. Just try to find out what it is and stop it there so they don't have to immigrate to another country.
That's true. One of the things destroying their countries, of course, is the war on drugs that we're pushing so hard. The other thing is the bankers. And of course, even in Hugo Chavez's socialist paradise, they were giving the bankers 700% return on their investment. So it's the bankers, it's the wars, it's the war on drugs that are destroying these countries. And yet we're not addressing any of those root causes. We're just making it worse and bringing the collapse into this country. And that's by design. Well, thank you, Jakari. We're going to look forward to your reports. Hope you can get some more information. That's a great find that you had. Unfortunately, it's sad to see that happening, that they would send these children further into the United States. Even if their family is here, I would think that they would be able to be reunited with them. I've seen a lot of stories of very young children who were separated from their parents who were remaining behind in Central and South America.
Well, you hear the stories that sometimes the parents come first and then send for the kids second, or sometimes it goes in reverse. So regardless, a lot of these children are being separated from their parents, from their families at some point along this trip.
Yeah, I would think that in America, if Americans did that kind of thing to their kids, of course, Child Protective Services would take them away.
Would be all over.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Okay, well, thank you, Jakari. We'll be looking forward to more reports.
All right, thank you, David.
Bye-bye. You can also help us and help yourself by checking out InfoWarsStore.com, where you can get Survival Shield X2 and great health products like water filters to get the glyphosates as well as the fluoride out of your water, whether you're on city water or you're on well water.
The globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding, making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
The brainwashing media machine has been turned up on high, and it's time for humanity to double down on the true people's media and strike back against the tyrants that are destroying our civilization with their lies and fraud. We are the resistance. You are the resistance. You are the info war. It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the info war to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at PrisonPlanet.tv.